Welcome to a special crossover episode of Work This Way, a labor and employment podcast, and Project Catalyst, our economic development podcast. I'm Tina Emerson, Chief Marketing Officer at Maynard Nexsen, and I'm joined here today with two of our attorneys, Jim Warren, who is in our economic development group, and Jennie who leads our labor and employment group. And we have a special guest with us today, Greenville Mayor Knox White, who's also the keynote speaker of the Greenville SHRM conference. SHRM stands for the Society of Human Resources Management. And Mayor White has served as Greenville mayor since 1995, and the city has grown immensely and transformatively under his leadership. Mayor White, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, you've just given your keynote speech on identifying the assets of the city of Greenville that have helped to successfully build the communities, which ranks Greenville at the top of lists across the country. So can you give us a high-level overview of what Greenville's greatest assets have been?
Well, there was a time, thank you very much, but it was a time we weren't on any list. I'm always very conscious of that. Top 10 list, top 10 here and there for sometimes on a list I'm not even aware of, someone will bring my attention. So we're getting used to it now, but it's so different from just a few years ago. Those of us who lived here for a long time knew it was a special place, but I guess outside people had to discover us. But I think if anything, it's been more lifestyle-oriented lists we're on, for people who want outside hiking, or it might be the food and culinary scene and that kind of thing. If I have to look at it also in terms of what list do we want to be on that maybe we're not on, and I think that's some of our focus too, and on that is in the economic development field in particular, because we're also a great place to start a business, a great place to bring your business to, and I don't think that's being as recognized as perhaps the lifestyle aspects are, but it's going to happen. Once you're on those lists, people find out about us.
And as a follow-up to that, what do you think have been the biggest catalysts for growth?
Well, you can't get away from the fact that underlying everything, kind of the wind beneath our sail, is absolutely our diverse economic base. And this didn't happen by accident. In fact, we talk about downtown in a minute. It didn't happen by accident either. It was all kind of by intentional design. Greenville was a textile town. Everybody was in textiles, textile city for 100 years, actually. I grew up here. My father was in textiles, and my dad's, all his friends were in textiles. When I look back, everybody was in textiles or related to the industry somehow. And Greenville leadership in the 1970s made a very important decision, and it was intentional. It was a decision, which was we're going to diversify the local economy away from textiles, and that was blasphemous to even think that way. And neighboring communities, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, did not, but Greenville did. And early on, a big breakthrough, they recruited General Electric to Greenville. I think they came in 1967, 69, and that was huge. It was big for GE, I learned later. Apparently it was their first plant in the South, which was unusual, the Schenectady, New York heritage business. But for Greenville, it was a big deal. It was then, still is today, several thousand employees, but General Electric. And then that followed, a few years after that, the first recruitment of Michelin, and Michelin's plants in the region, which would later evolve into the corporate headquarters of North America. So these were amazing decisions made at a time when they didn't have to make those decisions. The textile industry was still strong, still doing well. Why would you do that? And we had leadership, the Chamber of Commerce in particular, that articulated that we have to create a diverse workforce and economy, and other people didn't do that. And it grew on from there. And when the textile industry collapsed, rather quickly, a decade or so later, a little more than a decade later, Greenville was already diversified. We already had Lockheed. We already had these companies. And then, of course, later we had BMW and the whole automotive industry in the region. But the foundation had already been laid, and that's kind of how Greenville does it. So to answer your question, it's the diversity of the strength of our local economy. It does tilt toward manufacturing. That's still high wages. And also, it's the kind of businesses that not only attract people to the area, but also, very importantly, it provides jobs for people who already live here. And that is a huge difference between economies that are based on, bringing in businesses from the outside that may not employ local people. They just bring more people here. We have a little bit of both.
Right, Mayor White, that's very interesting. So you've spoken about the diversification of the workforce in Greenville, and one of the greatest assets of the city are the employers that we have here, award-winning employers like Michelin, BMW Manufacturing. You talked about textiles, Sage Automotive Interiors is here as well. Can you tell us specifically about what Greenville has done to create such a business-friendly environment specifically to help employers succeed?
Yeah. Well, that's a large issue for the county and the the politics of the county, what Greenville's been all about, and even going back to the days when I mentioned about General Electric, Greenville's been kind of scrappy. We could have relied on one industry, and a lot of communities do, and to their detriment, because one thing that happens when you're a one industry town is you get very lazy about it, and you get a little haughty about it, frankly. And Greenville's never been that way. It's always been out there as a pro-business environment. You can see it and feel it everywhere you go. The local governments reflect that as well, city and county and state. And we're out there recruiting and inviting people to come here. And that's something we live with, but when you go to other communities around the country, or when you deal with businesses that move here from someplace else, that's one of the first things you'll hear them talk about, and you'll notice that this is a very pro-business community, and what a difference that makes.
Kind of tagging on to that, kind of looking forward, what type of industries and businesses today are interested that are coming here? We're trying to attract that. So as we kind of look into the future.
Yeah, I think that's always something we need to be thinking about, because just as I said a minute ago, we want to continue to be diversified. We don't want to rest on our laurels, and the world economy changes, and we have to change with it, so we can't be doing the same thing. I think we'll always have a tilt toward manufacturing. That's still a good spot for us, and manufacturing today is advanced manufacturing, so it's high skill, high education, good wages, and that kind of thing. So it's a different kind of manufacturing. But otherwise, especially speaking from the city standpoint, we're an urban area city, so we're particularly interested on service industries, and we're interested in finance and banking, and we have a biotech lab in our downtown. That's a niche for us, I think. And also, we just have to be more focused as a kind of community where people can start businesses. I think, to me, that's kind of the goal of a city, is to be a place where people come here, and they may come here from one job, but they can start their own business here. And I think that's going to be our big focus of the city of Greenville going forward.
So Mayor White, Greenville County job creation has historically and continues to hit record highs. You spoke earlier about creating a business-friendly environment. Can you talk with us about what some of the specific policies or initiatives are on the government level that have attracted those businesses to the Greenville area?
It starts with the fundamentals of your taxes. We have the county is set up and working with the city and the state. We provide tax incentives for certain businesses, industries, and such. But being mindful of the taxes, the regulatory environment is important. There is really, you can add all those together. And the more you're in this field and you look at businesses that are coming here and the people who are coming here, you begin to see a couple things. One is it's almost more cultural than anything else. It's the culture of how we interact with businesses, how we treat startup businesses, how we attract different businesses to our area, that we're open to diversity. More and more, it's about attracting talent to the community. In fact, I think more and more we're kind of focusing on what you focus on, which is it's about the people. It's about the people. It's about the people. It's about the people. And as we get on these top 10 lists and the quality of life issues that we work so hard for, creating parks and green space and trails and the best downtown in America, all these things attract talented people, ambitious people to Greenville. And where that goes is what's the great exciting opportunity, what they do when they're here, starting businesses, and to me that's what the future is really all about.
I think just kind of elaborating on that a little bit, when you have businesses all over the country, really all over the world, what's kind of your hope when they think of Greenville? What do you want them to think about, and really, why, kind of highlight some other aspects or elaborate a little bit about why this is such a great place to live and work?
Well, you want to make sure they understand that you come here and you will succeed. You have a qualified, educated workforce available to you, that you have an acceptance of and a welcoming of a diverse work environment, that we're focused on people from all over being here and feeling very much at home here. We're not a closed community. And I would quickly add, again, that goes back for decades in Greenville, that attitude, which is really important, and it doesn't exist in a lot of places. Business-friendly environment, a welcoming attitude toward people from other places. The amount of foreign investment we have here sends a strong message, because you can come here from Germany and France and Asia and find your way here. You may start out with a German company, you're from Germany, but hey, guess what? You maybe you marry an American and start a new business here. And you see that all over in Greenville. You always hear foreign languages downtown. And that's important. More and more affordable housing is an issue across the country, not unique to Greenville, but in all the places that are growing. We have these issues. But I think Greenville's going to be shining on this in the next couple of years because we're doing more, I think, than anyone else in South Carolina or in our region to address affordable housing. But we have to keep an eye on that because I think you're going to see a greater connection more and more between affordable housing opportunities for people and economic development and jobs. I mean, it's got to be a place for people to live. And we know it's tight now, and we're trying to address that as well.
So Mayor White, Greenville, as we've discussed today, has garnered lots of attention for being one of the best small cities in the country. I use that term a little loosely because we are growing rapidly. Where do you see Greenville in 5, 10, 20 years from now, and what assets are we developing at the government level to kind of help Greenville realize those future goals?
Well, one thing I think is that we're in an amazing place on Interstate 85, Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, down to Atlanta. I mean, we're in a sweet spot, not just regionally, but nationally and frankly, internationally. So we're kind of on the map. So there's no turning back from growth. It's going to happen. It's a matter of how we manage the growth. And I think the good part about Greenville is, as a community, we've been focused for years on managing the growth. It's difficult. It's like riding a fast-moving horse or something. You're going to fall off occasionally. But the focus is there and the intention's there. So I think what Greenville will look like in the future, if we stay on this growth pattern, I think we will manage it better than most people. I think what we're doing, creating Unity Park and Falls Park and our neighborhood parks, our Swamp Rivet Trail system, we're providing a lot of green space for the future. My attitude is we don't do it now, we won't be able to do it in the future. We got to do it now. And we're laying a great foundation there. I think there's more to be done on infrastructure, other kind of infrastructure, transportation. We have the penny sales tax on the ballot this November. Hopefully the voters will see the wisdom of that. We got to catch up on really hundreds of millions of dollars worth of road work in the county, not just the city, and state roads as well. That's very important. And I think we need to get more serious about the issue of affordable housing and about public transportation. I would say we're not there on public transportation where we should be. We're a lot better off than we were, say, 10 years ago, but we still need to be thinking about that. My best example of that, I guess, would be, I remember the time, it wasn't long ago, where you could get to the GSP airport in a matter of minutes. You didn't have to stress over that. Well, Interstate 85 has many surprises in store for you now, and you can't count on that. So, I mean, this community's got to figure out a way to get people to the airport without getting on the interstate somehow. With those kind of big transportation issues, we better be watching. I mean, if you go to Nashville and go to Austin and cities that are already growing so much faster than we are, double, in fact, but there are a lot of lessons to be learned there. And I think building green space and parks, being attentive to your infrastructure while you still can, and addressing affordable housing at the earliest stages is good advice.
Certainly comforting for someone who lives, works, and plays in Greenville to hear that there is a plan for how to manage that future growth, and to know that people like you and others working with you are in charge of and working hard on those issues.
Well, I give the residents, the people in Greenville are speaking to this. That's a great thing, and don't underestimate that. Just like I said, it's a culture. The culture of business, having a diverse businesses here, having a good startup climate, being how people feel about businesses, being open and welcoming and inclusive in the community. These are cultural things that Greenville does well in. And then beyond that, I would say the voters, the residents, they like the green space. They want more trails. They want us to address infrastructure. So it starts with that. You have to have that to tell elected officials this is what we want to do. So I think we're on the right agenda, thanks to the voters and the people who live here.
Well, thank you so much for giving us the highlights of Greenville. Greenville certainly has a lot of them to brag about, so thanks for that. It gives us a lot of things to be excited about for the future and for what's going on in Greenville right now. So thank you so much for being here, Mayor White. Thanks, Jennie and Jim, for joining us. We will see you next time on one of our Maynard Nexon podcasts. We'll see you later.